Good afternoon. My apologies for starting late. I do apologize as I had technical difficulties, but I hope that everyone who has been patient with me is still here. And if you are listening, I do appreciate you coming on the stream. I will begin this video by describing my views and how I came to Neo-Conservatism. When I was in high school, I first was, I would consider, a libertarian. I had grown up in a Republican household, and I accepted the ideas of libertarianism. I believed in statements that were made by Ron Paul, who I now today call Ron Paul. He made many statements that gave me the impression, in which I accepted, that America, the United States, was in the wrong. That the United States invites terrorism and evil to its borders through foreign intervention. I had grown up in a Republican household, but I began to accept these libertarian, or what you might call, from Ron Paul, Paleo-libertarianism, and began to adopt those as my views. I grew up in a time in high school when the Iraq War was going on. And so I began to accept the idea that our foreign intervention in Iraq was wrong. I then developed a view that is a minority in leftist thought called Christian anarchism. I began to see the state as an enemy to God and to Christianity, as I was a faith-believing Christian. And I came to the view that Christian anarchism was the only right philosophy for a Christian. I eventually left Christian anarchism and then went back to paleo-libertarianism. I saw Ron Paul as my idol. During his 2008 presidential run in the primary for the Republican Party, I had been first introduced to him. But it was in 2012, in which he ran again for the nomination for the Republican Party, in which I became very much a fan of his philosophy. And I supported him. And I believed that he was the right choice for the United States and for the Republican Party. He did not win the nomination, and so I am glad that he did not. But then I still remained a paleo-libertarianism, although I jumped between the Republican Party and the Libertarian Party. I would join the Republicans and then leave them for the Libertarians and go back and forth and so on. It was in 2016 in which my views changed forever, and which led me now to being a neoconservative. I went abroad for a study abroad opportunity to the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic is located in Europe. And I had been wanting to go on this program for some time, and it was a very exciting opportunity for me. I was studying there Holocaust studies. And it brought me to several sites that changed my views forever regarding non-interventionism and isolationism. I toured a camp called the Terezin concentration camp. For those of you who do not know it, the Terezin concentration camp was located in the Czech Republic, and it was a camp in which individuals who of Jewish ancestry, who were held against their will, were waiting to be transferred to Auschwitz-Birkenau, the biggest of the death camps. I toured these grounds, which was also a mixture of, besides being a concentration camp, a prisoner of war camp and a political prisoner camp. I toured these grounds, and I saw the places where men, brave men, and innocent men and women lost their lives to a criminal, despotic regime that killed them simply because of their race and their ethnicity, or because they believed in freedom over tyranny. I saw places where men were hanged, where men were shot, and I toured these grounds, and I realized that something just wasn't right. Why did no one do anything? I then, during this program, later toured an SS Gestapo prison, if you will call it. It wasn't as big as I thought it would be. It was a few cells at most, but it was held underground in Krakow, in which individuals, political prisoners, no doubt, were kept under lock and key, isolated, and tortured, brutalized by a despotic regime that had illegally and for means of war and conquest had occupied. And I asked myself again, why did no one do anything? It was either the next day or the day after that I then toured what is known today as Auschwitz-Birkenau, the largest and the most well-known of the death camps and concentration camps. I toured the grounds. I passed by the holding areas, the barracks, where people were forced in cold, dreary, dilapidated conditions, not fit for animals. And I passed by places in which people, children, women, men, young and old, were gassed to death, where individuals would literally take bets on who would last the longest before their life was sucked out of them. I also toured and saw the places in which the bodies of the dead were burned. Something happened to me there that I do not describe on this video, and I will probably not describe to anyone for the rest of my life, because what happened to me is only known to several individuals who were with me at that time, and I would prefer to keep that a private matter. But I will say that the effects of going through that place have haunted me to this day, because I have smelled the stench and the presence and the spirit of death. Because when you walk these places, when you walk a place like Auschwitz-Birkenau, you feel death. Even after so many years, this place is just evil, in my opinion. It was then my views began to change, and I realized that my views, my non-interventionist, isolationist views, led to terrible tragedies such as this. The United States had many good men and women from all sorts of different backgrounds prior to United States entry in World War II. And we had said to ourselves that it is horrible what is going on to people in Poland, in Yugoslavia, in Eastern Europe, in France, in Norway, in Greece, in North Africa, but it's not our concern. Let them deal with their own affairs while we deal with ours. Well, I have seen the effects of that ideology and that perspective. And it resulted in death. It was then my views began to change, and I slowly and surely developed a philosophy that is known today as Neo-Conservatism. Neo-Conservatism has often today been maligned and slandered and smeared as a movement by individuals of the Paleo-Conservative or Paleo-Libertarian and the Democratic Socialist who have attacked our movement and have said that we are meddling in other people's business, that these foreign affairs are not our concern, that genocides and dictatorships are not our concern. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I call these movements the parties of death, because it is they who enable and support dictators and despots and criminal organizations abroad to do terrible things upon the innocent. I am a neoconservative, and I am proud to say it, because I understand that the world we live in today is full of evildoers who will murder, torture, do anything they can to stay in power. Well, we neoconservatives understand this. And not just neoconservatives, but interventionists and humanitarian interventionists. We all understand that the world is flawed and we must stand up for the innocent and for the victims and for those who have no voice, so we can live in a better world. There are many threats that face freedom globally today. The criminal Kim family in North Korea, who are in pursuit of nuclear weapons and expanding their military and expanding their nuclear arsenal for the purpose of waging war upon free nations in order to retain power at no matter the cost. Kim Jong-un, or Chimichanga, as we Ghoul gang members call him, literally gorges while his people starve and suffer in conditions and in places that can only be described as modern-day concentration camps and modern-day death camps. We also today face a threat in Tehran. The formerly great nation of Persia is ruled today by an illegitimate despotic government that tortures and brutalizes and kills its people to retain its power, that spreads terrorism into Yemen, into Syria, into Lebanon, into Israel, into Jordan, and into Iraq through its proxies, its Shia militias, and organizations like Hezbollah. We also face a dictatorship in the Kremlin, in Moscow. Vladimir Putin, who I call Poison Putin, has murdered political dissidents, has murdered journalists, and murdered former members of his own organization who have come out and criticized him and called him for what he is, a dictator and a despot, who has fraudulent elections where he is simply rubber stamped as leader, who spreads violence into Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, and who causes more deaths in the Middle East by supporting dictators and despots like Bashar al-Assad, Bashar the Butcher, who has murdered hundreds of thousands of people in Syria, who simply wanted a more free nation to live in. We also face not simply governments that are tyrannical and despotic, but we also face other organizations who use terror to spread their vile message. Organizations such as FARC in Colombia, a Marxist-Leninist organization that has murdered and butchered and killed innocent people and kidnapped many others. And now who today, unfortunately, are being legitimized in a deal brokered by the government in Bogota and between FARC, a deal that the people of Colombia did not support and did not agree to, a deal that they voted against. And now we are seeing the repercussions of what happens when individuals like this are allowed political legitimacy. We have seen how they are now trying to infiltrate the Colombian judiciary and to attack individuals like former President Uribe, who stood and fought against FARC, who stood and fought against communist murderers, who fought and stood against these kidnappers, these killers, these drug dealers, who is now under criminal investigation for doing nothing wrong but simply fighting for the people of Colombia. Libertad Uribe. And we have seen the same happen in Northern Ireland or in Ulster, in which the IRA, for decades, the Irish Republican Army, waged a war of terror and of murder, of bombings, assassinations, and gruesome killings all across Ulster to forcibly, not by the will of the people, but to forcibly take Ulster into the Republic of Ireland against the wishes of the majority of the people who wish to remain within the United Kingdom. Countless Royal Ulster Constabulary policemen, countless British Army soldiers, countless innocent people were murdered, maimed, and scarred by the IRA, who were then given political legitimacy by the Good Friday Agreement, which allowed former members of this criminal organization to enter into Stormont, who then, after year and decade after decade of growing their power, used the judiciary in Ulster, used the judiciary of the United Kingdom to attack and to charge with criminal offenses members of the British Army, who simply were trying to protect the people of Ulster, both Catholic and Protestant, from IRA terrorism. We are seeing now the effects, ladies and gentlemen, of what happens when we give organizations like these criminal organizations legitimacy. Let us also not forget to the Taliban in Afghanistan, who the Paleo-Conservatives and the Democratic Socialists say We should leave Afghanistan and leave the Taliban to their own devices. We have seen what happens when we leave terrorist organizations, whether they be the IRA or FARC, to their own devices. Will we do the same in Afghanistan? Or will we stand up for the people of Afghanistan? We stand up for the women of Afghanistan who are going to schools, who are getting jobs, who are finding employment, who are finally breaking free from the stranglehold of the Islamist radicalists. Will we take a stand for freedom? And will we take a stand against governments that support terrorists, like Pakistan's ISI, its inter-service intelligence, who have supported, funded, and trained, in part, the Taliban, who have then killed US soldiers and killed NATO soldiers and personnel? Will we allow these organizations to get away with these criminal activities? Will we allow governments that support them, including the ISI supporting terrorists in Kashmir against India and killing Indian soldiers, Indian policemen, and Indian civilians? Will we stand against that? Will we stand for our allies, like Taiwan, who stands alone against the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, who stands alone fighting for freedom and justice and independence against a dictatorship, a despotic government that today has modern day concentration camps for people simply because of their ethnicity and their religion. A criminal organization and government that persecutes its own people for the religious beliefs that they follow. A criminal organization that seeks to expand its power into East Asia and to the Southeast China Sea. And not just in Asia, but abroad in Canada and in the United States and in Europe. Will we stand up to this? As a neoconservative, I say that we must stand up against dictatorships, against despots, against terrorist organizations, against criminal organizations that seek to destroy, to maim, to brutalize, to put people in terror and in fear. As neoconservatives, we must stand up. We cannot allow evil in the world to go unchecked. We have many enemies today, neoconservatives and humanitarian interventionists. There is FARC in Colombia. There is the new IRA in Ulster, Northern Ireland, and individuals from the old IRA who are infiltrating the government in Ulster. We have Vladimir Putin, Poison Putin. We have Bashar the Butcher, Bashar al-Assad. We have the Ayatollahs in Tehran. We have Hezbollah throughout the Middle East. We have Kim Jong-un, Chimichanga in North Korea. We have the CCP virus, the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing. We have the Paleo-Cons, who are apologists for evil, brutal dictators like Bashar al-Assad and Vladimir Putin. We have so-called democratic socialists who are apologists for communist and despotic regimes like the DPRK, the Democratic People's Republic of China, of North Korea, and of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. As neoconservatives, it is up to us. As neoliberals, it is up to us. As humanitarian interventionists, it is up to us. As interventionists on the whole, it is up to us. No one is going to fight these evils. It is up to us to fight against them and to force our political leaders to stand up to them. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a proud neoconservative. I am not afraid to say that. And we neoconservatives, neoliberals, humanitarian interventionists, whether we on the center left, the center right, must unite and set aside small differences for the cause of liberty, freedom, and justice globally. We cannot allow dictators and despots to rule over the innocent and to cause suffering globally. I'm approaching the 30-minute mark, so I will close with these remarks. We are the Ghoul Gang. We are hawks. And we are rising. To the isolationists and the dictator apologists, run in fright and terror, for we are coming. The interventionists are back. You thought our movement was dead, that you had killed it. No, you cannot kill the spirit of freedom, of liberty, of justice, and of truth. We are coming. The ghoul gods have spoken. The Ghoul Gang is rising. And we are out to bring freedom and liberty to the world and to remove dictators and despots from power by force if necessary. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this video. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch, and follow me on YouTube. I thank you all for tuning in. And my final send-off to you for today is death to all tyrants. Vive la liberté. Thank you.